There we go. All right. Time for prayer this evening. And this is a student's prayer. This was actually a prayer that Steve found, and I really enjoyed. So, come, Holy Spirit, divine creator, true source of light and fountain of wisdom, pour forth your brilliance upon my dense intellect. Dissipate the darkness which covers me, that of sin and of ignorance. Grant me a penetrating mind to understand, a retentive memory, method and ease in learning, the lucidity to comprehend, an abundant grace in expressing myself. Guide the beginning of my work, direct its progress, and bring it to successful completion. This I ask through Jesus Christ, true God and true man, living and reigning with you and the Father, forever and ever. Amen. Okay, so here we go. The next thing on the agenda is to talk about the agenda, right? So I just kind of explained the webinar instructions for you real quick. Now, nobody has their audio or video on other than the presenters because there's just too many folks in the room. So we're going to rely on you to use the chat for conversation and to use the Q&A button for questions and answers, okay? The presentation is going to go really relatively quickly. We're going to start with a little bit of context building around students and online learning. And then I'm going to talk a tiny bit about the JVLA way, and then that's sort of a precursor for Steve, who will kind of talk about kind of how we weave the JVLA way into our coursework. The third thing I'm going to talk about then is I'm going to talk a little bit about a student learning skills initiative that we have in place that your sons and daughters are taking part in. And then after that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and Steve's going to do a quick tour of a course, one of his courses actually, and kind of show you how JVLA courses are set up. He's going to talk a tiny bit about our relationship with Creighton University and our dual credit program. And then he's going to talk a little bit more about what you can do to help us, help your sons and daughters, okay? After that, we'll do a little bit of Q&A to find out how we might be able to help you more. And then lastly, we'll have that presentation that I spoke of earlier from Joe Bazuzik that you won't want to miss. So without further ado, I'm going to just get right into it. And so what I'm going to do first is just kind of set, like I said, set a bit of context about online learning. First of all, tell your sons and daughters congratulations on taking the step to do this course, okay? It's a big deal, and the reason it's a big deal is because it takes them outside of their comfort zone, right? They're probably not used to this kind of learning, and so it's but it's important. And it's important, particularly for college, in that the likelihood of them taking an online course at some point in their future is pretty darn high. Okay, if they go to a large state university, they're probably going to take at least one online course as an undergraduate. If they go into any type of advanced degree, they are definitely going to be taking an online class, and they're going to be taking online coursework when they when they go into their profession, okay? So they're going to experience this. And we know that what the research shows, not surprisingly, right, is that one of the critical success factors in online learning is self-efficacy in the model. I've been there before. I know what to do, right? And so even when they're presented with something that's not quite the same, they feel comfortable and confident in kind of problem solving through that experience a little bit better, okay? So this is a big deal for them, and make sure that they recognize the value of this beyond just the content that they're going to learn, okay? Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the JVLA way and the ways you can help, right, in this small part. And this kind of leads back to the last slide where I just got done talking about, this is a new experience for your sons and daughters. What we're trying to do is to make sure that they're successful in this environment, right? And so part of it is really empowering our students and teachers and school people, right, parents like you, to do our best work in supporting these young people, right? And so the strategies that we use are assessment, engagement, and communication. And from the assessment perspective, it's not just about the scorecard, but it's really about using assessment for learning, okay? And then in terms of engagement, we're talking about behavioral engagement, right? Our students doing the things we need them to be doing, okay? cognitive engagement, which really is more about, are they being challenged mentally, right? And then that third part of it is that emotional engagement, and what's that hook that's keeping them attached to the course and moving forward and wanting to learn. Okay, so those three combine to make that engagement strategy bring to life. And then the last part is really about communication. Steve's going to talk much more about this when he gets into his presentation about some of the ways in which we communicate with our various constituents. But just know that it needs to be really fundamental to our work. And so the more we can get students communicating with other students and with teachers, the better off the whole experience is. Okay, so next, I'm going to turn my focus to our Learner Skills Initiative, again, which your sons and daughters are taking part in. As part of this experience, obviously we want them to learn their coursework, right? But as important for us is we believe that that being a good online learner is being a good independent learner, and being an independent learner, a lot of it has to do with students recognizing their metacognitive power, okay? Understanding how learning works, understanding how learning works for them, right? And so what we've done is we've created this learner skills component that really are made up of a couple of things, right? Which first of all is a skills rubric that I'm going to share with you in a second. And it provides a framework and a language that we can use to kind of work with kids in terms of the skills that we believe are really important to learning. It's a little self-assessment inventory and a tutorial that goes with it, okay? And then there's some resources and interventions that are built into our coursework that relate to this learning skills, the rubric components that I just talked about, that really are meant to help students just kind of stay connected to their learning in the way they do that, okay? The students aren't going to, we're not going to be able to solve every learning skill issue that every student has, but what we really hope to get out of this is we hope students really struggle with how they learn, okay? So that's really the point. I'm not going to be able to spend a lot of time on this, and there's a whole bunch to learn, okay, about this initiative. So what I'm doing instead is pushing out a link that I just put in the chat box, and that link will take you to kind of a bigger, broader resource that you can study about this Learner Skills Initiative, just so you know what your sons and daughters are getting into. Really the key to this whole Learning Skills Initiative is really there at the bottom. It's really about that impact, right? First and foremost, obviously, we want higher levels of engagement and achievement in our coursework. Secondly, we believe that if we do this right, students will be better learners. And then lastly, through this, we believe teachers will actually be better able to serve the students in our coursework. Okay, so those are really the three reasons why we're going about doing this. Real quickly, I'm going to share with you just the rubric itself, just so you can see it, and so you'll recognize it when you see some of these words eventually come across your screen and reports and those type of things. So when you're looking at this rubric, you're looking kind of from left to right. It gets more specific as you move to the right, and really the things that are in color there are sort of the sweet spot for what we're gonna focus on, right? So we're not going to get too detailed because we don't have the time and resources to do that. But we're going to spend some time talking about academic mindset, academic behavior, academic perseverance, self-reflection, and self-transcendence, okay? And that self-transcendence component is really about helping students frame their learning in relation to their world, okay? So that's really what that means, okay? You'll also notice on your screen that help seeking is in color. And help seeking is in color because it's really important. JVLA believes it's really one of the most important skills students can learn. And so we do spend a considerable amount of time and effort to try and get students to be active help seekers, okay? And again, Steve will kind of talk a little bit about more of that in a second. And since it is about that second, it's about Steve's time. So I'm going to go ahead and turn him over to him. He's going to share a little bit more about his course design and a few other things. So, Steve, you want to take it away?
Sure. Hello, everyone, and thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Joe, for coming tonight. All right, I'm going to share my screen and just give you a quick mini tour of one sample course of that we offer, online course for credit. This happens to be advanced placement microeconomics. So let me just share my screen. So one of the things under the category of effective communication at JVLA is we really strive to make sure that that we want to eliminate the guesswork, I guess. What am I supposed to do is a common question that students come to our courses with. So here's the structure. If a student wants to get a hold of me, there's a clickable email. I encourage them to text me, and I usually get back very quickly to them, and that's typical of our courses. This is an orientation, first steps, how to get the materials, all that kind of thing. Here's a copy of the syllabus and our synchronous meetings. We have a synchronous meeting once a quarter in this class. And then the content of the course, you can see we're in the third unit on price controls and tax burdens. And here's one way to eliminate the guesswork. So notice that each day of the week, Monday through Friday, there are 2 steps. So Monday, take learning goals quiz. Tuesday, post to economic concepts of this unit, evident in my local economy, economic community. And so throughout the week, they know, and that it's routine. So it's after, like, this is the third unit. So by now they're familiar with the structure of the course. They know what to expect. They know what they got to do. The rule of thumb for an advanced placement course is about an hour a day, and that's more or less what these tasks have them do. Some are less, some are more. But by the end of this unit, by the end of this week, they'll have a good idea of price floors and price ceilings and tax incidents and so on. And then step 9 on Friday is step 9 Thursday is a test. Step 9 is a reflection on what they've learned during the week, tying it up to the master plan that's stated in the syllabus so they can sort of understand the forest for the trees. So they're thinking about what they're learning each week, each unit. So that's a short mini tour of a sample course. And our courses are a little bit different, but all of them emphasize that backwards design element of making sure that the learning plan is stated frequently and that learners roll up their sleeves and start working with it right away. That's why step 1 is to take that learning goals quiz. The other thing that Jeff mentioned that I wanted to just feature was this help-seeking form, just for a minute. All our courses also have, what if a student is stuck on some aspect? They can go to the help-seeking forum and either contact me as the teacher or the classroom teacher, or post a question to the class, like, hey, I'm having trouble with this or something, if they feel comfortable with that. And that's a way of having a lot of communication flow, a lot of actionable communication. I also want to just share some of the back room things that our teachers have. This is an email. I get an email digest every day of all the posts in my classes. And so I know right away at the end of the day, who's posted, who hasn't, who needs reminders, and so on. So this is a great way for teachers at JVLA to make sure that they are working closely with their learners in their courses. The next thing I'd like to just mention is a little bit about a very exciting program that's just about a year old, and that has to do with the Creighton University partnership that we have on dual credit. And a little bit about Creighton University there in Omaha. I'm in Boulder, Colorado, and Jeff is in Omaha. I think Joe is too. And a very, very fine school, and most of our AP courses now have, or soon will have, dual credit arrangement with Creighton University. It's a great way not only of getting, hopefully a qualifying score through the College Board, which is a transferable and shareable credential that high school students can share with their prospective universities, but they can also take an equivalent course or get credit for an equivalent course on through Creighton University for an additional fee. For example, this started several years ago with our multivariable calculus course, which is sort of a post BC calculus course, and it's like a third semester of college calculus. So Creighton University has awarded students who do well on our multivariable course a transcript for their Math 347, which is pretty impressive for a high school student to show that about. And finally, I just want to mention how you can help. What you can do to help. The first one, as the slide indicates, is just to show an interest really in your son or daughter's online experience. The more that we can do on JVLAs and to sort of break through the potential isolation of learning online, the better the experience. So if mom and dad shows an interest, hey, how's that online course going? How's it going? What are you doing? What are you learning? Are you all caught up? That kind of thing. Showing an interest goes a long way to breaking down that isolation. The communication with inside the course, the learning experiences that we're striving to build and to offer our students. Where one of the things that, and I taught in the face-to-face classroom for many years, and one of the exciting and thrilling and exhilarating features of online delivery is the prospect of building a learning community with students in different time zones, across mountain ranges, river valleys, and that's really amazing. That's thrilling to do, and the students enjoy it as well. It's an extra dimension that online learning has that certainly was not available to the extent that when I was teaching in the face-to-face context. Also, just a bit more about the communication that JVLA believes strongly in. Every Friday, we send out to teachers, students, and site coordinators at schools and parents communications, sort of progress reports stating how students are doing in each one of their classes. So a quick message, this is what it looks like for a typical Friday. Attached to that report is a table of information that you can peruse, and we have student ID number here, an estimate of the current grade. Of course, this was the first one, so there was like one assignment for this course. This will show some increased variety, I imagine, as we go. The number of clicks of that week, the total minutes spent on the course since the beginning of the course on September 6th. Sorry, I have to move this. The number of weekly minutes, these are total minutes, weekly minutes. And then the binary measure of 1 or 0, which I really believe strongly in looking at. And that is, has the student logged in within the last 3 days or so, 60 hours, whatever that is? 1 if yes, 0 if no. So that if this is like a dashboard reading if an engine light, service engine soon comes on, between the student, parent, site coordinator, and the teacher, we can sort of get them back on track as quickly as possible. If, for example, these numbers indicate that he has spent 5 minutes, last week on the class, he hasn't logged in the last 60 minutes, and then the average is kind of low. That's a sign we need to reach out to that student, make sure there are no problems, no obstacles, and get them back on track as quickly as possible. So that transparency is a key feature. We want parents, students themselves who are involved in the course, and site coordinators and teachers, of course, to all be in on everybody's progress. That is another way of sort of breaking down the isolation that is potential pitfall of online learning. So we believe strongly in a network of support for our learners so that they can really achieve and do well in their course. So I think that's all. Jeff, I'm going to turn it over back to you.
Super, super. Thanks, Steve. So now, before we get to Joe, talk a little bit about college, we're going to do some Q&A, okay? And so, again, what you'll see in your screen is you should have a Q&A button on your screen, and I would welcome any questions you have at this time. Go ahead and post them, and we'll just answer them in the order that they come. So the questions will come obviously over to us. Steve and I will curate and decide how we're going to go about answering the questions. So Steve asked to answer the one in the chat room. Okay, perfect. So there was a question just a bit ago about the open house that I wanted to reinforce it. So, you know, we are, thanks to Steve, we are recording this. So if you want to come back and watch it later, yes, you can. We'll be sending the link to the recording out to all parents. Okay, and then also there in that I'll also send that link that I spoke about earlier. That was the other question, was about the link for the Learner Skills Initiative. So, all right. So we have a question from Maureen Fisher. Are there an expected number of clicks for each course? I see a very big difference between the students, and my sons are relatively low in comparison. So Maureen, I'll take that one because that one's pretty easy. So the thing that you need to recognize about those reports, first of all, all of the courses are designed differently. Okay, so in those reports, obviously they're imperfect measures of a student's work, right? But what they do provide is some actionable data, right? Something to talk about, something to engage our children, our students in relating to their progress, right? So when you look from course to course on the number of clicks, for instance, there could be a wide variety in terms of the number of clicks from course to course, because some of the coursework, depending on the course it's up, some of the coursework is embedded more in the course, and some actually use outside resources more. And once they click off of that onto that outside resource, those clicks are no longer being counted, okay? So what you really need to pay attention to, and that includes the same in terms of time on task and all those numbers, right? What you really want to pay attention to is how your sons and daughters' numbers compare to the averages in their class, okay? Those are really the important numbers, because even though they could be up or down some, they should be relatively in line with what the other students are doing, okay? So if you can see a relatively big variance between the other folks in the class, then you might just say, hey, Joe or Susie, you know, help me understand what it is you're doing in this class. So just ask a simple question like that. So Steve, do you have anything else you want to add to that one?
Sure, just quickly, I think it's a good question, and I'm a AP stats teacher too, so a couple of years ago I tried to see if there was an association or correlation, if you will, between number of clicks, let's say average in the the percentage average for grade, and any of the other measures that we have there. And to be honest with you, there wasn't a clear correlation. So what I think the value of these is to take them as a units, like a dashboard, I guess, service engine soon. So if there's no minutes spent the previous week, that's kind of an alarm. That's a signal. It hasn't logged in the last 60 hours, and the score has fallen from the week before. Let's say at a 95, and then this week he's got a 76 or something. That taken together, that's a conversation. that's a conversation. And that's usually how we use these reports. The site coordinators and I will say, hey, is everything okay with Bill or so? And then the site coordinator will reach out and find out. We can usually get that learner back on track pretty quick, within a week or so. So that's really, but is there a one-for-one correlation? As again, Jeff mentioned, they're not perfectly correlated with performance with the grade, but they do, as a composite, sort of give you an indication of the tenor of the conversation, if you will.
Yeah. In particularly the minutes spent, right? When you really start looking at the minutes, right? One thing that we do know is, if a student is not regular, right? They kind of get out of the habit. It's hard to get back into the habit. All right. Once the student's fallen behind, they fall further behind, and then it just seems like too big of a mountain to climb. Okay. And so then rather than attack it, they avoid it because they feel almost paralyzed by having to get back in and try and conquer what they had. They feel bad enough the way it is, and now we're going to reinforce that bad feeling by making them go in and do the work, right? So the one thing you can do that would help your sons and daughters the most is just to talk to them about routines, right? Mm-hmm. And to use that dashboard that Steve was talking about to kind of help, don't keep your thumb on them because you want to be independent learners, but just try and keep them regular, right? So Patricia asked about the number, what does clicks represent? So clicks represent, mouse clicks, right? So when a student, gets onto the course page and then maybe they click on the forum link, right? There's a click, right? They click on a resource, there's a click. So literally the clicks are representative of the number of mouse clicks as students go through, okay? And again, those numbers are not, you got to take them for what they're worth, because some people, again, have resources. If they're using a physical book, for instance, some classes don't have a physical book, other ones do. So, you really can't determine, everything from the number of clicks or the time spent. The time spent is literally the time spent on the class, right? The time spent on that class site. So it doesn't include meetings that they have online, like the one we're having here. If teachers use Zoom in their class, doesn't include those. That literally just includes the time spent on their course site itself. Okay, both in terms of the total number of minutes spent in the class, as well as for that week. Okay. Tom asks, am I correct that I need to contact my son's instructor to find out if notes are okay during quizzes and the policy for retaking quizzes? Tom, am I correct that I need to is not quite correct. What I would say is, am I correct that my son needs to contact his instructor? Okay. That is a perfect example of that help seeking that we were speaking about earlier, right? Mm-hmm. If you do that for your son, you're taking that opportunity away. Okay. Mm-hmm. Students need practice at help seeking. They need practice. Okay. The teachers want to help. The teachers want to know. The teachers want to hear from the kids. So give them that opportunity. Okay. Steve, do you have anything to add on that question?
No, I think that's a great answer, and I commend the dad for for interest and caring. That's what it's all about. But I agree, it is. Unless there's not a response or something, if the student reaches out to the teacher and there's no response, then that's where I want to know about it. and that doesn't happen very frequently at all. But encourage, now you know about the help seeking form, so maybe surprise your son with saying, why don't you reach out to the teacher through the help seeking form? He would be, how do you know about that? But the more, if you think of a continuum of dependent learning and independent learning, we encourage moving students from wherever they're at, wherever they enter this learning experience. if the needle points more towards dependent learning and say, Mom, I don't understand this, or Dad, I need help. And say, well, not just you're on your own, figure it out, but I think there's a mechanism for you to find out the answer to that question. So contact your teacher and let me know if you don't hear from him or her in 24 hours. That's usually the turnaround time, a lot less in most cases. But yeah, give them the opportunity to move that needle from dependent more to independent learning, and that'll have payoffs far beyond this online course.
Katie McGowan asked, do all JVLA classes offer dual enrollment credit?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, not all of them. All of our advanced placement courses, when we offer 13 advanced placement subject courses, and a few others like the multivariable course, the arts and cultural identity has been included in that program, but not all of them. I would say over half, but not all.
Right. In moving forward, just so you know, in the next couple of weeks, you'll start for the folks, everybody will get a note regarding the dual credit, okay? That, hey, the dual credit enrollment process is open. But for the folks whose courses are eligible, you'll know, okay? You'll be getting, parents and students both will be getting multiple notes from us about the opportunity. Okay, so all, like Steve said, all of our AP classes except for 2 this year. 2 of them will be next year. Will be added next year.
That's right.
But for the most part, any of our advanced placement courses in multivariable calculus are. So Lisa asks, my son is taking Mandarin Chinese. Are the opportunities to practice speaking to understand? Are there opportunities to practice speaking to understand if his pronunciation is correct? Steve, you want to take that one?
Sure. One of the cool features of language instruction in our learning management system called Moodle is they now have the ability, both students and teachers, so there's a flow of information. They can click on a little icon and record a short, about 2.5 minutes, of speaking, and there's video and audio, and the teacher can respond in kind. So the tools are there, and what Professor Tai does a lot of is the synchronous meetings through Zoom, in which she calls on students to pronounce. She'll give examples and so on from YouTube, from her own recordings, and then they will respond. But it's also possible, that's synchronous, but asynchronously, or at the student's own choice of time, he or she can click on that icon and speak. And then the teacher can comment and make corrections and so on. So short answer, yes.
We have exhausted all the questions in the queue.
Okay.
Which is nice. So
good questions.
Thank you so much for taking the time to ask, right? Next, we invite Joe Bezuzik back to share a little bit about the select college process. And again, this is particularly relevant, noting the number of advanced placement or dual credit courses that we offer. And so, dual credit's not always the right answer. And so Joe's just going to kind of put it all in perspective for you. Okay. Joe, it's all you.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I'm happy to be here. What I'm going to do is kind of give you an overview of what selective colleges look at, specifically Creighton. There are schools that are more selective and obviously less selective than we are, and I'll try to touch on some of those areas and differences as we go along. So let's start with what it takes to apply to college. Now, typically a college application is going to consist of 5 items. There's the application itself. Your sons and daughters can use the common application or go straight to a university's website and apply directly with that university. Universities do not give preference, or they should not give preference to different application types. Next is a personal statement or essay. Common App calls it an essay. A lot of times on our individual applications, we call it a personal statement because students are afraid of the word essay. So personal statement sounds a little nicer. That personal statement or essay should be about what the student's passion is. Do they have a neat story to tell about their background, their family, a favorite activity they've been a part of? It can be on a lot of different things. We also want to find out what their writing skills look like. So ask them to have you proofread it. You can make suggestions, but limit your involvement to just kind of a proofread component, and make sure that they do have someone proofread those. That's something that we always want students to do. Next is the high school transcript sent directly from your son or daughter's high school. Letters of recommendation from the guidance counselor or teachers can be sent, and then also standardized test scores, meaning the ACT or the SAT. I'm going to dive a little more into the high school transcript specifically, because that is something that is extremely variable. One thing that we like to say is not all 4.0s are created equal. And so a 4.0 from school A is different from school B, and even at the same school it could be different because it could differ in the strength of curriculum. So taking honors courses, AP, IB, dual enrollment, that all has value when we review an application. So we like seeing students challenging themselves. Up to a certain point, we see sometimes transcripts where the student is straight A, they jump into AP tests or AP courses, and then they're getting C's and D's, and they stay in those AP courses. Take the hardest schedule a student can handle with the success that they're accustomed to. That's usually my advice for families. So we're looking at an overall success. We're looking for success in some specific academic areas. So depending on what area, if you want to go into the health science, biology and chemistry are usually good predictors of your success. If you're looking at engineering, math and physics, some of those courses allow colleges to narrow in a little more on what grades you're doing well in. And then the trends in performance. We want grades going uphill rather than downhill. So tell those students that are maybe having senioritis that those grades do still matter. Benefits of taking college level courses. Obviously, that's why a lot of students are here with the JVLA. They want to know about what credit I'm going to get. And so earning college credit is a big part of the benefit of IB, dual credit, AP. So graduating early. Some students think I'm going to save a year, I'm going to save a year of tuition and time. That doesn't always happen. Usually it allows students flexibility, allows them to double major, allows them to take courses that they're actually passionate about, so that they can really enhance their college experience. That's what college is all about. It's all about learning and finding your passion. And so we don't want students just doing a checklist of everything and getting through the courses without actually saying, wow, I love learning this and I'm looking forward to learning this. So the flexibility is a big part of it. Allows you to double major or add minors. And then it usually gives you a little leg up on registering for courses. At Creighton, we have small class sizes. There's not an issue in getting into courses, but sometimes at bigger schools, the more credits you have, the earlier you get to register for courses. So that can be a nice leg up on maybe some students that don't have college credit. Second benefit, it looks great on a college application, as I mentioned before. That 4.0 with honors and AP courses looks better than the 4.0 without it. The most important benefit to taking college level courses, though, is that it gets students prepared. As was mentioned earlier, that they're going to take an online course sometime in their life. They need to start preparing for the learning environment of college. And so, you know, if high school is taught at a certain level and college is at another level, those college courses are going to get them taking small steps. So they're eventually going to be really successful during that freshman year of college. Now, other factors that we consider in the admissions process, obviously standardized test scores. Sometimes those are losing their impact in college admissions. Some schools are test optional, meaning that you are going to be kind of considered based on your high school quality and your grades in those high school courses. So those tests are optional. At Creighton, we do require either or ACT or SAT. We do super score both tests now. What we're looking for really is a predictive value. And those ACT, SAT scores for some students do have a predictive value, and that's ultimately what we're trying to use it for. We do factor in college essays and personal statements, as I talked about earlier. Ultimately, we want to know what we love getting to know our students individually. What do they really, really enjoy? So last week on a visit down in Hawaii, the student was writing, they were talking to me about their personal statement, about their love of snacking. I can't wait to read that. So that's going to be something that's fun, enjoyable for us. And I know that her personality and her writing skills are going to come across in that essay. Extracurricular activities. Are you active in high school? Because you're going to be active in college. And that activity for the students in high school usually proves that they can handle activity at the college level while balancing their academics. And then finally, your recommendation letters from school counselors. That is the required piece. If a school counselor doesn't know a student very well, that's when we usually ask them to have a teacher submit an additional recommendation letter for them. They can speak to how that counselor or teacher thinks that student's going to succeed at that individual school. Other tips, pay attention to deadlines and application types. Deadlines are there to make sure that students have the right amount of stress to get it in, obviously. There's traditional admission, which all applications come in, they're due at a certain time, all admission letters are sent out on the same date. There's rolling admissions, that's what Creighton does. Applications are reviewed in the order that they're received, and we send out those decisions every day. We send out more and more decisions. There is early decision, that's a binding type of admission. Students can apply to one early decision school. You are bound to go there if you are admitted. So if that is a student's dream school, they're going to go there if they get in no matter what it costs. Early decision is a great option. Finally, early action is non-binding. It's just a way to hear back a little bit sooner on a college decision. And then utilize the resources that you have. The high school counselor is available. Utilize admissions counselors. Contact us at Creighton. Obviously, we'd love to help the process of helping students enroll at Creighton, but our staff is really trained well on helping students enroll wherever is the best fit for them. We really want this to be a personal process and the students to go where they're going to best fit in. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us. My contact information is listed here, and then our general admissions website as well as email address is listed there. So I appreciate your time today, and thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions for Joe real quickly before we end our evening? All right. Joe, I think you're off the hook. I think we're good to go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Really appreciate everybody spending time, and we look forward to spending the semester or the year with your sons and daughters. Have a good evening.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.